Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And this is part 2 of my Shake the Disease 35-year anniversary special. If you've not seen part 1 yet, I will leave a link in the description below. Do go and watch part 1 before you come to part 2. Now, if you did watch part 1, you will remember I visited the location where I believed the music video for Shake the Disease was shot. And as you know, I was not exactly in the right location. The location I visited was based on rumors I heard and hearsay. People said that's where it was shot. So when I got to the location, which is in Canary Wharf in East London, I stood there and I thought, okay, this looks very much like it. You know, despite the fact that it was 35 years ago and there weren't many things there at the time, but the cranes that were there and, you know, the water behind me did make me think I was more or less in the right location. Now, through interaction with you guys, it turns out, as I was aware of, I was indeed in the wrong place. Not far off. I believe the actual video was shot in the Royal Victoria Dock. And we will go and visit the exact location later on. And speaking of the music video, I've also just interviewed Mr. Peter Kerr. Now, Peter Kerr is a very famous music video director. He's directed everyone from R.E.M., Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, and of course he also did the Shake the Disease, It's Called a Heart, and Stripped music videos. And do check out that interview I did with him regarding the Shake the Disease music video. And also, as I promised, we will definitely later on down the line do another interview with Peter Kerr regarding the Stripped music video. Now, Shake the Disease is 35 years old, which is very, very difficult for me to get my head around. And this little Shake the Disease special is kind of like a spin-off from my Depeche Mode album review series. And if you've been watching my Depeche Mode album review series, you know we go into a lot of detail. But despite the fact that we go into a lot of detail, there is still more that is left uncovered. And that is the reason behind this type of video and moving forward, I'll be doing a lot of those where we will actually focus in on one song and strip it down and really get into the bones of the song. We do that in the Depeche Mode album review series, of course, but in these sort of intensely focused videos on one song, we can go in even deeper. And I believe that Depeche Mode and these songs, and you, the fans of Depeche Mode, deserve that, because the more we dig into Depeche Mode, there are so many layers, and I keep saying this, that on face value, things that sound very obvious and simplistic, when you dig a bit deeper into Depeche Mode's work, it's like opening Pandora's box. It really is. Shake the Disease is a standout track. Not only the fact was it not on an album, as we know, it was released as a single to promote the 81 to 85 body of work. And it's funny that at the same time they released It's Called a Heart, to which I believe is one of Martin Gore's and Alan's least favorite tracks. But Shake the Disease is really a standout track. And what's very fascinating about Shake the Disease is that it is one of the few Depeche Mode tracks which fans unanimously agree on. Now, on this channel, we have the statistics, we have the feedback, based on you guys, we have the discussions and the interactions, and we know that although we all love this band, there are often fierce debates as to, regarding different things. I like the live drumming, I don't like the live drumming. I like It's Called a Heart, I hate It's Called a Heart. I love Cover Me, I hate Cover Me. The people are quite vocal and passionate about their feelings. But despite the fact that Depeche Mode has this huge body of work and a huge fan base and music that everyone loves, and we can all disagree, but Shake the Disease is one of the subjects, one of the songs where we all unanimously agree. I have never met a devotee or a Depeche Mode fan that does not rate this song as one of the top 5 Depeche Mode songs ever. Everyone loves this song. And there are many reasons as to why this song is great. It's fascinating. It's haunting. It's scary. It's a little bit positive. It's just pick an emotion. And there's a lot of that in this song. But some of the sort of words that come to my mind when I think of Shake the Disease is moody, melancholic, haunting, scary, dark, mad, psychotic, but tender at the same time, and sensitive. And once again, we see this in a lot of Depeche Mode songs, that it's not only in the production and the songwriting, but also in the delivery, as I always talk about Dave Gahan giving his direct. Some people have to be permanently together. And you've got Martin doing the understand me. And we hear that, there are lots of examples like that. I'm just thinking of people are people. And then you've got Martin doing the can't understand what makes a man hate another man. Help me understand. That great contrast between the two voices. And that's just the voices. But then there's contrast in the songwriting and the messages, and there are multiple meanings in the songs at the same time. I'm going to run through the lyrics of this song, and then I'm going to break the song down into its structure and its parts, and we're also going to analyze some of the individual sounds. There is a lot to it, but talking about the lyrics of this song, and as I've talked about Martin's songwriting before, the lyrics may, on face value, appear quite obvious. Dig a little deeper, it's a bit ambiguous, and Martin is brilliant at saying something which you can listen to in one way and then go, oh no, it means something completely different. So when I give you my interpretation of this song, understand that this is my interpretation, but you will probably have your interpretation as well. And you know what? They could probably be completely different, or we might be on the same page, or we might agree on certain things, or we may not. But that is definitely the fascination in Martin Gore's songwriting. And a lot of the things I talk about on this channel, I tend to repeat myself. But it's to hammer the point across, and of course for the benefit of people who have just joined the channel. To me, the lyrics behind Shake the Disease are about shyness, one's inability to express themselves. Now, I spoke about that in quite a bit of detail in my Martin Gore special, link below, where we delved inside the mind of a genius. And I spoke about in that video how Martin Gore has this shyness, which has caused trouble, I believe, for him. Sometimes not being able to assert yourself can be problematic. But at the same time, I mentioned that his shyness is also an asset, because his shyness and his inability to express himself means that instead of being very vocal about things, he will be able to sort of go within himself and express it within a song. And there are many examples of this in Depeche Mode's work, and indeed in Martin's songwriting, where we get really, really profound lyrics, which are profound but not pretentious. He does speak very sort of like in layman's terms kind of thing, but having said that, the meanings behind those can be interpreted in so many different ways. Martin is not literal, and it's completely unpretentious. It's just very, very from the heart. And as I say, read between the lines. There is so much meaning to these things. Now, I'm not going down on my knees begging you to adore me. Okay? Can't you see it's misery and torture for me? When I'm misunderstood, try as hard as you can. I've tried as hard as I could to make you see how important it is for me. Now that is frustration. It's inability to express oneself. It's agony. It's pain. It's what did Martin say he writes about? Pain and suffering. And of course, that was just one interpretation I've given of that. It's desperation. It's understand me, as the song Understand Me. That's one of the lines of the song. Here is a plea from my heart to you. Nobody knows me as well as you do. You know how hard it is for me to shake the disease. It takes hold of my tongue. In situations like these, once again, interpret it in any way you can. But there are many things, many facets to that. And one of them is not being able to express yourself. How many times when you've fancied someone and you've been around them and you can't get the words because something takes a hold of your tongue, and you end up doing something that makes you look bad or misrepresents what you were trying to achieve. And so many facets to the song, so many different meanings. And as I say at the end of the video, I would love to hear what your interpretation is of the song. Some people have to be permanently together, lovers devoted to each other forever. Now I've got things to do, and I've said before that I know you have too. When I'm not there in spirit, I'll be there. As I'm saying these lyrics, new insights are coming to me as we speak. One thing about Martin's lyrics, they've always been very grown up. And, you know, I always talk about Depeche Mode not being a band for the masses, because I think very often the music and the whole concept of the songs, it does tend to go over most people's heads, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but especially in the mainstream, you know, people want to, they want to dance. You know, where's the beat? Fuck off, man. Jeez. Anyway. I did read somewhere that Alan Wilder said, you know, in typical Depeche Mode style, it was always to do things unconventionally and really always think out of the box. And the obvious title to give the song would be to call it Understand Me, whereas Depeche Mode would go, no, we will call it Shake the Disease. And, you know, even if it was called Understand Me, we would accept that. But Shake the Disease just has such a, wow, what a title, Shake the Disease. And Martin Gore's lyrics in the song, as I say, once again, deep, personal, but unpretentious, completely unpretentious, straight from the heart. Right, now let's examine the structure of Shake the Disease. Once again, very, very unconventional. Just looking at it on the piano, it starts off with a very dramatic and then that repeats, and then behind that you've got this other little part which goes. But at the same time you've got Martin going, oh, it's kind of like a cry of agony. It really gives it that scary, almost psychotic type of feel. Right, so jumping into the first verse in just simple block chord demonstration. It's got all these little riffs. This song toys through so many different emotions. It starts off very stern, which is the and then of course you've got that other little part behind it. And then when we get to the first verse, it's kind of relieving. It's not as stern. It's there's haunting again. And then we get to the chorus, it's mad again. But then straight after the chorus we've got Understand me, understand me. And that's kind of like a cry for help. What's interesting is I think when Martin writes these songs, I don't think he's really conscious of the fact that, okay, now this part is going to be dark, and then this part's going to be lighter, and this part's going to be, you know, filling the blank. He does talk about when he writes songs. He said it's a very strange feeling. He says like something just overcomes him, and he kind of goes into a trance, and he just lays it out. And that definitely is how the music, how the creative, artistic mind does flow. But I do get the idea that when Martin comes up with these ideas, they're just very pure, and that is why there's been so many sort of like knockoff bands, you know, people who emulate Depeche Mode and try to sort of emulate that moodiness, and it very often comes across as just forced and contrived, whereas with Martin it's just completely natural. It just feels so inspired. Everything feels, the way the chords move, and even though they move unconventionally, and things just feel very natural, even though they feel a bit odd sometimes. Difficult to explain. Now let's look at the opening riff to Shake the Disease, and then we're going to let's look for the gorism. Remember I talked about the gorism? Now there is no such thing as a gorism. It's not in the book, but a gorism is something we talk about on this channel. So whenever we're talking about Depeche Mode in terms of songs, a gorism, you know what I mean, is that riff, and there's always a part within Depeche Mode's melodic sequences where there's always that part that kind of sounds a bit discordant or off or a bit dissonant. Let's look for the gorism in the opening riff. So there it is. Let's look again. There it is. And here's another one. You feel that it just feels like it's, I know there are many technical terms to this, and thank you to those of you who emailed me and gave me the technical explanations behind it. I understand that I understand that there is obviously a mathematical or a technical explanation to these things, but in the context of these videos we will refer to these odd chords as gorisms, and you will know exactly what I mean. You know what I mean, guys. So there we go. There we go. So many different layers to this. Let's look at some of these sounds. Now the sound bank I'm using now is the sound bank which they used in the 101 tour. So these are not the exact sounds that were used on the actual record, but you will recognize them as the sounds from the 101 tour. Starting off with the lead riff which Alan plays. It's interesting, they have a whole sequence programmed into that one key, which is obviously tempo synced, and they would just play this over the backing track. So Depeche Mode's music, as we know, is all about multiple layers. So while Alan is playing his iconic part, Martin is playing his part at the same time, which is... Another part which is on the Martin Gore sound bank is the "I'm not going down on my knees begging you to adore me." And the part that he plays while Dave is singing that is the... It's the "I'm not going down on my knees," and then... And what's interesting, I've said this in many videos, is that a lot of Martin's melodies, some of them are not very musical. And what I mean by that is, I mean, if you take this riff in isolation. Blum, 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 blum. It's not unmusical. I suppose technically it's not, but it's not a very melodic, memorable part. But as part of the arrangement, for instance, with Dave going, "I'm not going down on my knees begging you to adore me," and you've got the... Then you've got the after that, there are so many different parts, and this is what I talked about this as well in songs like People Are People. Martin uses these simplistic, almost like nursery rhyme type melodies, like bum 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 bada bum 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 bada bada bum bum bada bada bum bum, which in isolation can sound, not silly or childish, but they're just not great melodies by themselves, but put them together, it works perfectly. I'm going to get philosophical now. There was, I remember someone talking about Sophia Loren, and they said, she was a very beautiful woman, but they said if you took her features, her individual features, if you took like her nose in isolation and you just showed someone a nose, they might go, oh, that's a big nose. And if you showed them her eye, they'd go, oh, that's not a very pretty eye. But put all the parts together, Sophia Loren was a beautiful woman. Now, of course, that is very philosophical and slightly off topic, but it does explain perfectly what I'm trying to say is what, if you take things in isolation that don't make sense and put them together, they become greater than the sum of their parts. And Depeche Mode's music is, I've studied their music for years, and the more I dig into it, the more I realize this. Looking at another signature sound, which I believe Alan plays, is the... which comes in at the part, I'm not going down on my knees, begging you to adore me. Can't you see it's misery and torture for me? Looking back at the lead sound, really listen to that sound. Listen to this. Can you hear that there are actually two notes being played at the same time there? Listen again. The one part of the sound, which is sort of like the root or the lead part of the sound, sounds to me like it could be a guitar strum or like a pick. And then underneath that, they've got like this, those like hit sounds. Shink! It's like a zhink. I don't even know what the sounds are called, guys, but they used a lot in the 90s, especially in like hip hop and urban music, had like this zhink, zhink, kind of a zhink, a hit sound, whatever. But anyway, listen to the two harmonics in this sound. Can you hear how the first part is, I'll illustrate in the piano, is, that's the first part. But it also has a part which is a tone lower. Listen here. So here's the one part. And here's another part. Can you see how they would program their sounds? And despite the sound in isolation can sound quite simplistic, there is a lot happening. So the fact that this particular part has essentially two harmonics to it, or two sort of different notes so you hit one key and you're getting two notes. So when you hit this key, you're getting, but you're also getting there seems to be a D there as well. It appears that this sound has a second note programmed a tone lower on each key, just to give it some dissonance. And so effectively, when you're going, you're getting this. You see, it's like two notes being played at the same time. Even though the second harmonic is quite low in the mix, and you cannot consciously hear it, throw all these dissonant little sounds together in the context of the whole mix, and it's one of the many reasons why their songs sound the way they do. And it's just this completely unconventional, out-the-box approach. Some other sounds. This sound is interesting. I'm not going down on my knee. We recognize all these sounds. So he'd go. So he'd just hold that key down, and that part would be there would be a whole part sequenced onto that key, and obviously matched to the tempo of the song. Later on in the bridge, we've got that. And I believe Alan plays this part. It's. I'll just play the bass part on the piano here. And you've got the. Then, of course, he wouldn't be playing the bass line. That would be on the backing track. Of course, now these sounds are really iconic, and they're kind of like, your neck hair stand up because you recognize them. They're so ingrained into our psyches. But, as I always do on this channel, is when you strip those sounds away and you just play it on the piano, you can hear what as I say, the synthesized sounds can be distracting. But when you take away the distraction of the synthesizers and the technology, then you can just focus in on the piano sound and the melodical content, and you can hear how beautifully timeless this is. Now, I will do a piano improvisation at the end, and you will hear how, even if this was composed 500 years ago, it's still a timelessly beautiful melody, and it is not reliant on the synthesized sound. Here's a very, very interesting observation for you as a devotee. It's quite a small thing, but then again, something so simple, something so trivial. Indeed, this is a small detail, but if you're a Depeche Mode fan, you will recognize the significance of this. Now, when you take the song, let's just go, I'm not going down on my knees, begging you to adore me. Okay, can't you see it's misery and torture for me? Just rushing through it now. When I'm misunderstood, try as hard as you can. I've tried as hard as I could to make you see how important it is for me. You watching? Here is a plea from my heart to you. Nobody knows me as well as you do. You know how hard it is for me to shake the disease. It takes a hold of my tongue in situations like these. Okay, then we get the understand me. Now watch this. Some people have to be. Now, this is something they've changed over the years. A couple of my subscribers have said I should mention this, and I have noticed this, and I'm surprised you guys have picked up on this, because it's quite a small point, but it's probably quite significant. And that is, they have lost this. There's a little break where it goes to the C key. Now let me demonstrate. Now on the record, it goes as follows. Let's take it from the understand me. Understand me. Understand me. Then it goes. Then it goes to. See, it goes to the C. Some people have to be. Now they stopped doing that. I don't know why, but there must be a reason for it. So the way they do it these days is completely different. They, instead of going down to that C, they just remain on the D. So as demonstrated, this sort of started from the sort of 101 period, and it goes as follows. From the understand me, it goes. Understand me. Understand me. Then. Some people have to be. Did you see? It just remained on the D. It didn't go. Some people have to be. A minor thing, but I mean, that is nevertheless a I won't say it's not an integral part of the song, but it's just interesting how they did away with that moving to the C key. I'm probably over pointing this out, but it is interesting, and I wonder if you've noticed that. Focusing back on it has that again is one of those really sort of like simplistic little melodies. It's almost like la 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 la. La 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 la, understand me. It goes from this really dark and up to understand me, and it kind of lightens and it goes dark again, and this is just a mad flowing song, and the more I describe it, the more I realize how mad it is. This song is melodically brilliant. There are so many moods and emotions that go with it, and as I say, just listening to it on the piano without the electronics, you can hear that. So that leaves me to the thing I always do. I'm now going to do a piano improvisation, and it's just free flowing. Using all the sort of melodic parts that are already in there, I just sort of improvise them and as I feel and alternate them slightly as I go. The whole idea with these piano improvisations is to, once again, is to point out how beautiful the songs are without any production, just the piano sound, so you're focusing just on the melody. So there you have it. The piano improvisation shows that this song can stand by itself. And this is why this song has been played acoustically for so many tours, with Peter playing just the piano and Martin singing it. It works beautifully as a ballad, and it's so powerful. This song can truly go in any direction, because It just doesn't need dressing up. It is just fundamentally a sound song. Right, my friends, it's up to you now. Leave me your comments below. Let me know what you think of Shake the Disease. Anything you'd like to say about this series or Shake the Disease, or absolutely anything about the lyrics, your interpretation. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, and share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it or would like to see it. We also have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and the Facebook group is really a discussion group where we can elaborate on the videos in this YouTube channel. Guys, it's always a pleasure. I want to thank you so much to all of you who have been with me from the beginning. And if you've just joined, welcome on board. This is a great community. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Adios.